So to introduce myself, I'm Emmanuelle Bermès. I work as an associate professor at École des Chartes, where I teach digital cultural heritage. So we are in the topic. And I'm also a former librarian here at the National Library of France and an active member of IIPC. So it's not with a little emotion that I'm standing on this stage today. And with me, I have the privilege to welcome Pierre Bellanger, who is the founder and CEO of the Skyrock Radio station and founder of the Skyblog platform. Pauline Ferrari, who is a freelance journalist, specialist in new technologies and former Skyblogger. And Sara, Aubry and Jérôme Thièvre, who are respectively web archiving technical leads at the National Library of France and the National Institute for Audiovisual, so BNF and INA. But before we start this discussion, what is especially exciting today in front of such an international and diverse audience is that probably there are some people among you, maybe many people, who have never seen a Skyblog before. And well, before we jump in with the discussion, I would like to show you a few of these websites, these blogs that have ceased to exist online just a few months ago, and that have now become hidden gems in the BNF and INA web archives. So let's look at some of them. So Skyblog was a free blogging platform created by the French radio station Skyrock in 2002. It experienced unique success in France. We had 10 million Skyblogs live in 2007 and a peak of 33 million in 2011. The platform was used mainly by teenagers, and I think almost every French person who is in their 30s or 40s today either owned one or several Skyblogs or knew someone who did. The atmosphere of the platform was very peculiar: bright colors, animated GIFs, use of SMS language, interactions with high school mates or family, fandom communities. The only incentive of the platform was absolute freedom. And it conveyed a lot of intimate and personal content. Skyblog was one of the first spaces for expression and connection in France, and it has left its mark on the web culture and the history of the French web. The platform's popularity started to slowly decrease during the 2010 decade, until finally last year the announcement of the platform shutdown in the summer of 2023. So the decision to close the platform was widely covered by the media in France, and it instilled fear that all the content that was still online, so 12 million blogs at that time, would disappear for good. So the BNF and INA were informed in advance by a Skyblog manager, and they undertook urgent and massive harvest of these blogs within the framework of the web legal deposit. So I think with this slideshow, you have a very good overview of the diversity of the atmosphere, very visual. Well, that was just a selection that was provided by our colleagues here from BNF and INA. And so we are going to spend an hour discussing the perspective that we have with this freshly captured web archive. But before that, I suggest we go back to the foundation of the platform, and I turn towards Pierre Bellanger to ask you, how did you come up with the idea of a free blogging platform as soon as 2002, and how did the adventure start?
Hi, everyone. As everyone said, it's an honor to be there and to speak about the blogs that are now part of history. And your work is tremendously important because there is no freedom without memory. And you are the memory, so you are the freedom. So it's an honor to be there today. A few words about Skyrock. We started in the late 70s of the late century, so a long time ago. And there was in France a state monopoly for radio. So only a state radio station could broadcast in the country. And began a free radio movement that decided, why not? We can broadcast, and we can, broadcast what we want to broadcast, and why not have free radios? And we were using FM transmitters. They were expensive and rare, but it was possible to build them, and that's what I did. And I was a biology student at the time, and I found in free radio a fantastic opportunity for free speech. And we were arrested, not jailed, but because we are in democracy, so it was just, what are you doing? It's not legal, but that was not so much more. And the free radio movement became free radios and private radios in 1981. It was our French president, François Mitterrand, FM, so it explained the fact. And so Skyrock started in that spirit. It's a spirit of free speech and use. Use because we were young, and we pursued with that idea of popular use, free speech for the young and the new generation. And so we were also technological, we have a big technological interest. So we started with the FM transmitters of a few watts, and then there were local radios all over France, and we thought about using a satellite to broadcast to all the transmitters simultaneously. It's what we do now, because we have 250 transmitters for Skyrock all over France. And then we went into phone services, and then the Minitel. The Minitel, it's legacy network, which was of a precursor of the internet in France, and then obviously the web with the blogs, and then the mobile phone. Now we are in the mobile phone with the apps, and we have a Skred, SKRED app, which is the first European secure messaging app in the world with 18 million users. So we are always in the technological wave for freedom of speech and how to make a profit from that, because we are a private company, so our freedom is our profit. So Skyblog is born in that ambiance. And Skyrock, the radio, is a big popular success. It's the first radio for people under 35 in France. It's the first musical radio for people living in Paris and in agglomeration of more than 100,000 inhabitants. So it's a major player in terms of the new generation, and because some of the new generation left traditional radio, we found them back on the web, because we have 24 million subscribers on the different networks, and more than 110 million views per month. So we are a huge strength in France. And there is the free spirit in the blog, empowering the new generation with the ability to speak. And I discovered the blog, because they existed before us, obviously, at the end of the 90s. They were called weblogs, and they were online personal diaries dedicated to following a particular theme. For example, aeronautics. So a guy loving aeronautics was navigating on the web, surfing, as they were saying at the time, and he was collecting links And so it was an incredible form of expression. Web pages were like a cemetery. So it was a web page, and it was dead. And, well, you tried to reanimate some time to time, but it was still dead. And blogs were alive because the last publication, the latest post with the date appeared first. Articles included links, and you could leave comments. It was personal, up-to-date, interactive. So discovering that, it was a revolution for me, because we were using free radio. People were calling the radio station, they were speaking, and that feeling of freedom was not found, in our opinion, on the web. And the weblogs were the solution. The blog was the solution. So why not adapt it for the new generation? It was very technical at the time. So the idea was to rebuild the blog, and our team was not accustomed to write code at the time. So it took us 2 years, from 2000 to 2002. And that wonderful team is there, here. Maxime Dequet, Patrice Damzin, Franck Chenot. These are the genius with Jérôme, I guess, which is in Tahiti. People take vacation at Skyrock. And that is a team that built the Skyblog. And the idea was to say, well, teenagers are doing their personal diaries. Maybe every one of us has did one with flowers, poems, everything you want. And why not link the diaries? And that was one of the first social network in the world. It was not called the social network. And when I first spoke of social network to get advertising, I was sent to the human resource department of companies, because social network was not meaning anything for anyone. So we started to create a platform where people could speak to one another, comment, have friends. So all the alphabet of the social network was created there by the team here. And it was totally new. And so we started in the world one of the first networked generation. And it was a fantastic adventure, because for the first time, everyone can speak to everyone. For the first time, the youth can speak to itself. And you see, France is a fantastic big country. It's big. There's bigger countries, I know, but France is very big. And there are rural villages, and people are isolated, not in big cities, but to be with pink hairs in Gacugnol-les-Bouzouilles, somewhere in France, is hard. But if you connect to the network, and if you see that you are thousands with pink hairs, and even turquoise, well, the life changes. You are not alone. And the great family of the web, the great opportunity to be with other people like you, different but like you, and sharing experience, it's a profound moment of empowerment and emancipation. So that is the start of the story of the blogs.
Many thanks. So maybe we can jump to... Okay, it feels like we've gone back a few years already. And Pauline, can you tell us how it was like to have one or several, maybe, Skyblogs?
I had several Skyblogs because I was a very busy girl when I was 13. And as you said, Pierre, it was hard to have pink hair in a rural village of France. That was my case, as you can notice, more than 10 years later. So yeah, I began to hit on the Skyblog in the 2006, I would say. So I was 11 years old, and we had the big familial Windows computer. in my home, and yeah, I didn't have so many friends, and I was a bit like weird and don't have many interests amongst other kids. I liked the internet, I liked books, and I liked emo music and punk rock, and that was a bit difficult for other people of my age. And so I discovered Skyblog, and I discovered a fantastic universe of also fan fictions. That was my main entrance into writing and into journalism. And I think that's because of Skyblog I became a journalist, because I had a space to write, and nobody was reading was what I was doing, but it was a space. And so yeah, it was a kind of fantastic experience, because that was the first time that we had first a blank space that we can create whatever and whenever we want on this blank page. I began to code with Skyblog, because I wanted, as you saw on the images, I wanted my Skyblog to be the most prettiest. So I began to look how I can change the color of the screen, and that I need to go into the background of the page and do a little HTML. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do that. And so I put a lot of animated GIF and sparkles everywhere, and a lot of photos of myself, very ashamed, with a duck face and like a big hair around my face. So I had 3 Skyblog, 2 fanfictions, one on Harry Potter, of course. And I'm not proud of that. And another one about a French rock band was very popular amongst teenagers in the 2010s, called Bébé Brune. Yeah, very ashamed of that too. But that was my way to create stories and try to report also. Like I was doing like a little interviews when I was going to concerts in the big city. That happens like 1 a year. And a third Skyblog on my personal life. And that was an interesting, I think, for many teenagers, because that was the first social media that we ever worked on. And also with the first problematics that appears on social media, that is to say that it was public. And so we can receive 8 comments, for example. It can happen. So that was the first time that we discovered also that, yeah, we can share stories and our photographs, for example, but everyone can see it. So it was the first reflection about personal data too, and a reflection about how you show yourself to the world. And in the same way that Gen Z is like staging on TikTok and millennials on Instagram, we did that on Skyblog too. Like how we present ourselves, how we lie about our life to make it seems more likable. So yeah, that was quite a ride to be. I feel very old when I tell you all this, but it was quite an experience, and I think it changed the life of many teenagers to have this public diary, as you said, on the internet, and how we can reclaim this space for teenagers, because every generation had like a space to express themselves out of the sight of parents, and I think Skyblogs were our space where parents cannot understand what we are saying or typing. So yeah.
Thank you so much. You know what I really like about Skyblogs and why I want to study this material, and we're already touching a bit on that. You talked about the freedom, Pierre, but it's the emotions, you know, and they come straight away. I mean, you show the Skyblog and 5 minutes after people are laughing or they find things that are cute, or sometimes they are ashamed, or they have doubts. And I think one of the main doubts that have arisen in the Skyblog journey, because we had discussions about archiving Skyblog actually for a long time, what was the surprise of people who are not necessarily familiar with the libraries or web archiving when I told them that we may have skyblogs in the collections of the library. So that raised surprise, that raised doubts, and when the platform shuts down, that raised also a form of nostalgia. And we will come back to that later. But let's not be overwhelmed by our emotions, and maybe go back also to the actual question of the web archiving. And I'm turning to Sara and Jérôme because I understand that archiving the whole platform before it's shut down, so you just had a few weeks to do it, and there was a lot of content, so it was a big challenge, right? So what are the strategies that the two institutions have come up with to do that?
Okay, it was a bit longer than a few weeks, hopefully, because otherwise we wouldn't have been able to make it. But yes, as you said, for us too, it was a very emotional mission to actually archive all this blog, and we were very excited when Pierre reached out to us to just think about how we would be able to find solution to harvest all these blogs. So to start with the results, at the BNF we archived 12.6 million blogs. That's about 2 billion URLs, among which 1 billion image, if we need to stress out the important part of these images in the platform. That's about 37 terabytes of data, which is about a sixth of what we crawl every year. It was really in continuation with what we've been doing on blogs for about 20 years. We are very committed to track how blogs have transformed personal writing, personal diaries. It's both professional and personal commitment among our colleagues. We had already harvested blogs years ago, a few tens, thousands, but not really at that scale. So how we made it possible? We started with a whoa. It was really a big challenge, although we are used to domain crawls. So our strategy relied on cooperation, compromise and improvement of our crawl processes. So between June and August of last year, we worked very closely with peer teams. We're here today, so Maxime Dequet, Patrice Damzin and Franck Chénaud. And we had many Zoom meetings at that time. They first gave us a list, which is a good starting point, right? When we have a harvest to make, start with a list is always easier than discover. We ran very small tests, started with 10 blogs. It took ages, like hours, days, never really ended. And our first estimation for the complete harvest were about beyond 2 years. So it was quite big, and we had to find solutions. So we started by defining what would be an acceptable archived version of a Skyblog. So not the very truthful image, but not just a strict copy of a Skyblogs. And we discussed with the Skyrock team, we discussed with skybloggers also, and we took decisions to get some things in and to lift some things out. So what was in, we really focused on the content, so text, images, pictures, comments, photos, and we left, and also the network dimensions, of course, so all the favorites, the followers, the avatars, and also the awards system, which was part of the Skyblogs. And we decided to leave out alternative versions of the contents, like RSS version of the contents, or different ways to go to the content, so archive organized pages of the content rather than the blog ones. We also left out high resolution images, so we got the medium one, but not the high one, because was way too big. We left out for the time being all the linked videos and audios that were embarked on the Skyblogs. And for the comments, because some blogs had a few and others are many blogs. Sorry. Should have told me earlier. We took the first 200 comments, but not beyond that. We also looked for ways to reduce the number of requests to the blogs, because it's easier to collect one big page rather than harvest millions and millions of small ones. So we discussed with the Skyrock team, and they found solution to group the content differently and change the layout of the page. So instead of having block page with 8 articles, we had how many was that? 24. Instead of having 20 comments, we had 200. So that was, bigger page just for us, our crawlers, but that was much easier for us. And what we did next is try to size our infrastructure in respect with the Skyblog infrastructure, so that it will be technically possible to archive all these blogs. So we cut the list into chunks of 10,000 blogs. We played with threads to prioritize and to parallelize all requests. We actually run live tests and observe what it was doing on the servers on our side and on Skyblog size, to see if we could go up and down. And so we found a limit of 280 requests per second, which was quite big, right? After that, we developed a system that actually was able to balance the load among the crawlers that we actually used for archiving. And so we ran another test on 1% of the list, took 24 hours. Then we raised it to 10%, took 5 days, 20% to 20 days, and we were ready to go for the big crawl, which actually took 50 days. So, yeah, we made it, and we wouldn't have made it without the help, of course, of Pierre's team. Really, it was a cooperation that made it possible.
So at the French National Audiovisual Institute, we were also contacted by a Skyrock team, and we already collected and archived the Skyblog website since 2010, and it was still an age where the blog were very popular. And we do this. We have done this until 2016, I think. And after we choose to only archive a selection of blog around TV program and things like this. So it was quite a work to rebuild a full crawl of the website. And due to the limiting time, we make, I think, a cautious choice to select only a part of the blogs, only the most visible. So we receive some metrics and some metadata around each blog that was provided by the Skyrock teams, and we choose to select approximately 12% of the blogs that were the most visible and the most active, and it allowed us to collect a little more than 40% of all the publication, because it was the most active blogs. We also We also worked with Skyrock team to adjust our crawler and be able to scale it to be able to crawl in the time. And we also have a specificity at INA around audiovisual. So we wanted to collect all the video and media that were hosted on the platform or published by embedded YouTube or Dailymotion video. So we have identified 5 million of media contents. We started to collect them, but it will take months, maybe years, because we have also other capture and collection of YouTube. So we have to add this huge amount of new materials that we have identified on the website. We choose to have a specific crawling approach. We don't let the crawler do the traditional things to discover links. So we have proceeded in 3 steps. One for all the home page, fan page, favorite page, profile page. So pages that are directly related to the user or the account. And after we identified how many pages each blog contains, and in the second step we have collected all this page, and the final step was to take each post individually with its I think, like you, 200 last comments. We also ask for an access to more data for the account. So we have an access to an API that allows us to, as we make a selection choice, we need to explain it to our user. So we have with this API, we construct a little database for each user that extracts the summary of the account and some metadata, and it will also allow our user to know if a blog is in the collection or not. So I think I said all that I want to say.
Thank you. I have to say I'm very, very grateful to both INA and BNF for archiving as many skyblogs and as well as possible. I was among the people who felt that there was a very urgent need to do that. I already felt it as a librarian, and now I'm on the researcher side, and I still think you have created a corpus that will be very, very interesting to study for researchers. So, of course, we could have started studying the skyblogs while they were still online, and some people have done it. But as an historian, maybe I'm somehow more comfortable doing it now that they are archived. And probably the fact that they have been archived this way, that has been described, that was very thoughtful, will probably help the researchers find their way in this very important mass of content and information. So why would we want to, what are we going to do now that we have this web archive? Why do we want to study it? So first, I think probably many of you in this room know about Olya Lyalina's work on vernacular web. And what we call the vernacular web is really the web that was created by people, not by institutions. And so personal pages, amateur web. And in the 19th and the early 2K, it was really a period where the web was much less regulated than it is now. So we can really speak well, Skyblogs was a space for teenagers, for the youth, for adolescents, and we can also, I think, speak of the adolescence of the web. And I'm really convinced that Skyblogs are part of our history, the history of our digital culture. But there's also something that is really interesting for me as an historian, which is the consequences of the decision to terminate the platform, and something that I've been working on, and I call it, I will say it in French because it's very difficult to translate, processus de patrimonialisation, which is a series of steps that occur when an object that is just a regular object of our day-to-day life becomes a cultural heritage object. And that's exactly what we are seeing here with these digital objects that are the Skyblogs. And this process, this heritage designation process, is started by the awareness of potential loss. So here it was a very concrete loss, and Skyblogs become what Pierre Nara calls a realm of memory, un lieu de mémoire. So a symbolical representation of a community. So this is the reason why with the BNF, first we have started a 4-year project that is called Skybox, which aims to explore the platform that has been archived with its 12 million blogs using data-oriented methods because of the mass. You need to create heuristics, and probably we need to also find new ways of engaging with this corpus that will make sense for the researchers. This is one of our challenges because we are not sure that full text search will be enough or will be significant. One of the curious findings of my first discussion with former Skybloggers is that they don't necessarily recall the name of their Skyblogs. So we will maybe come back to that later. So the list may not be enough. So there is a lot of structured metadata and other significant things like images or feelings or music that are probably interesting to explore. And as for myself, what I would like to do is really to characterize what makes the unique atmosphere of Skyblog. So to study the platform as a whole, and finally, to complete the heritage designation process, cultural heritage object needs to be not only institutionalized, not only preserved, but we need to find a way to give them back to their stakeholder community, which is really the goal of this project. Yeah, I guess so. The idea that this corpus has been archived is already raising interest, and I want to turn to Sara because I know you have had interesting requests, both from researchers but also from former Skybloggers, right?
Yes, actually both. Besides the project you just mentioned, we currently have 3 research teams working on this collection. One is actually working on a project related to writing and reading chronicles within the network, so episodic writing. They focus on teenage romance written by young girls that live in the outskirts of large cities in a multicultural environment. They are right now at the corpus building stage, so they do it both with a manual and approach, and also with tools that we offer them. And they want to eventually map writers and readers and look into the intersections. In relation with this team, we have another researchers who specialize in quantitative epistemology and science evolution mapping. We will track with tools. Maybe large scale, we'll see how it goes. That's a challenge on 37 terabytes of data. So he wants to look into migration to other platforms. So how Skybloggers at some point decided to migrate to another platform such as Facebook for some of them, or Wattpad also for some of them, or maybe others that we haven't identified yet. We also have contacts with researchers, NLP, natural language processing researchers and linguistics, who are currently working on the development of tools and free corpora to analyze French and other French languages, and they want to try to build large language models on Skyblogs that are localized in specific cities and regions of France. We don't know if it's going to work, but we'll see. We will see for many of these projects, but we're really happy to work on them. We expect also more research projects to come. I didn't mention it, but at the time of building this archive, we also tried to gather lots of external metadata. So we just send many requests. We asked many questions to the Skyrock team. We wanted stats, usage stats, Google Master tool analysis, API extractions. We had search results of Google. So we tried to gather documentation and metadata to be able also to support the use of this gigantic archive. And yeah, another type of request, so not from researchers, but from Skybloggers. Since the shutdown of the platform in August 2023, we got 80 messages from Skybloggers. That's quite a lot, and it hasn't stopped. The last one was 2 days ago. That are actually not information, but copy requests. So we have a copy service for website owners, right holders that want to get a lost website. So we had a lot of requests on these topics. Usually we're used to people sending us personal messages, but the messages we got from the Skybloggers are highly personal stories, full of nostalgia, full of concern, full of hope also. You know, it's like, please do save my life and restore my memory. So it really ranges from, right now, a very concrete example, from poetry to travels diaries, from manga paintings to local history, amateur websites, from writing of a deceased loved one to someone giving tips and story life about living with an handicapped child. We also have lots of requests from people that used to be amateur photographer, amateur writer, fan fiction writer, that actually got professional also. And so they want to either just get their content or back or republish it also in some form. And just, yeah, the latest request we actually got from a Skyblogger was for someone getting married in a few months and wanting to offer a restored Skyblog as a wedding present. So very serious, very serious request.
That's so cute. So many different things. So I'm going to turn back to Pierre Bellanger and maybe ask you, because Sara mentioned collecting all this information about the platform. All we can know about it, but you have seen the platform evolve across 20 years. So you told us a bit about how it started, but how do you see this evolution? And when the platform closed, we heard this term of sociological treasure. So can you tell us a little more about that?
Yes, so when we had 500 blogs, we considered it as a huge success. Not only because we are an optimistic team, because it was totally new. So there is no business plan when you start. At the time when we started, there was not so much advertising on the web. There was some on Yahoo, for the older ones who remember. And so it was really a a new territory, a terra incognita for us. And we were struck and impressed from the start that the people were taking the tool from the start. They were publishing, using it, publishing photos, text, comment, using the various color we were proposing. And so we knew with 500 blogs that we won our bet to have a usable tool for everyone without any prior knowledge and just the possibility to publish. And well, it started very slow, and we had incredible statistic. You have here, alors it's far away, but it's possible to. I will give it as a documentation, but still, it was growing so fast. In 2011, we collected 4.5 billion comments. In July 2008, there were 50,000 new accounts per day. Every day, in the same year, there were more than 1 million posts every day. In November 2008, we had 6.7 billion page views, 221 million visits, and 38 million unique visitors. So it was incredible. And our peak, we had 33 active blogs in December 2010. So it was a storm. It was a tsunami. Ami means friends. So there was a tremendous activity. And the whole French generation, everyone had a blog. It was really a Skyblog generation. And we saw it growing, and we were very happy. And we went to the advertisers, and it was not yet called user-generated content. It was just blogs. And we tried so many things with advertisers. I remember conferences I made with big brands and American companies, because it started later in the US, saying, so how do we do? How do we communicate with people when it's not done by journalists but done by users? How do we start to speak? And it was wonderful. Everything was new. And you spoke of hate. It was new too. Because it was genuine, it was candid, it was innocent, but it doesn't last long, and came rapidly incredible number of problems that are facing all the social networks today. For example, promotion of suicide is forbidden. There is no death penalty for that, but it's still forbidden. You cannot promote suicide. So when there was a blog speaking of suicide, according to the law, we suppress it. And someone had a suicide. Not because we suppress it, but still when we discovered that fact, we are terrified. What are we doing? We have to better manage people's feelings. So we start to work with Michael Stora, a psychologist, to create a psychologist team to address those problems. We start working with a panel of associations to deal with anorexia, to deal with obesity, and many, many problems, and how people were speaking. So someone said, I have AIDS, but I have no one to speak to. And it was published. And we see it. And what do? So we did, with the psychological team, with the network of association, a tremendous work. And for example, the Suicide Association told us, well, when someone speaks of it, he doesn't do it. But at one moment, it becomes very romantic, and it's the most dangerous part. And so they gave us keywords. And when those keywords appeared, well, immediately we were reacting and linking the person with the teams who could help. Hate. We had moderators. Moderators is the term for censorship, but we had to do it. And it's hard to say, well, on a free speech platform, we had to have moderators. It was a surprise for us too. But we need to do it. And at first, it was only keywords. For example, Hitler is a keyword. So Hitler, okay, ban it. But it was a blog about the history of World War II. So we need to know context. Context means intelligence. So then that means that the moderation team has to not to work automatically, but to understand. And we faced tremendous problems on the platform, and it was at each time it was new. And what I've seen afterwards on all the platform, the Meta platform, the Chinese platform, etc., all what I've seen is the same problem at another scale, but always the same problem. And it's very hard to try to we can do our best, that is to say. So we learned. We have done with the team of Skyrock a fantastic adventure for the people. I think France has changed because of the blogs. We have done our part of changing the world as everyone wants to do sometime. We did it with the blogs. And afterwards, we had the competition. And the competition, well, we are accustomed to the competition. There are thousands of radio in France. We are one of the first. So we love competition because we are in front. And we fight for it with our talent and with our team. But the competition with the other networks and social networks, very talented, fantastic other social networks which were launched in the United States, well, it was not the same dimension. And we discovered it very late. At the start, we say, well, we are competing with an American company. Good luck to them. It showed that, well, it's strange. They have an infinite amount of cash. Well, it's strange. They are helped in some way that we don't understand. How can they raise $1 billion without a business plan? How can they do that? It's very strange. Is that the same rules? They taught at capitalism, but they seem to practice a special one. And what we understood is that very fast, internet, and from the start anyway, was linked to state interest, to the possibility to gather data, to the possibility of surveillance at a state scale. And it was not the case in France. In France, well, nice blogs. The blogs were despised, scorned. A lot of articles in the press, and that's why I'm so honored to be there today. I'm so honored by your work. Because what we were doing was horrible. And we were destroying the word as we know it. I have the press articles. Because there were the grammar was not respected. Because, well, orthographic rule, syntax was not respected. And they said, well, it's the horrible production of a blog, not a blog, but a blog production of teenagers. And I think that parents were despising the creativity of their own children. And so it was under subculture, like comics, like everything, like it was an underclass subculture, poor people publishing. It was horrible. And now we are at the National French Library, and now we are at the INA. It's fantastic. It's fantastic because society has evolved. Society as a whole recognized the value of its creativity. And as I was saying at the start, freedom is based on memory. And that memory of the century, of the start of the century is fantastic. You know, the École des Annales, who said, well, it's not the massive events which are important, they are important, but the daily life of everyone. We have to look at the daily life. And it's a fractal daily life. It's fractal archive that you have. Because you get in one blog, and like in a fractal, you go deep, and there is another person, and there is another, and there are comments. And who has a memory when you remember, for example, the 60s? There's no blogs in the 60s. What were people really thinking? You can ask old people, but what happens? There are some publications, but what's truly happening in the minds? That was happening in the mind made that revolution. And so what we have now is the possibility to go deep, fractally, in the mind of the entire generation. And that is a treasure, a gift for all of us. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Maybe, Pauline, I would like to ask you again about the life-changing aspect that you mentioned earlier, or whatever thoughts brings to you this evocation.
So I'm a French tech journalist, so my passion in life is to see how technology can affect people's life, and I'm very interested in the evolution of social media and how people can take the tools, as you said, and make internet their own. And I think what was life-changing in Skyblog, first, it was the first time for French teenagers that they have to experience this kind of digital experience and blogging. And the second one is, as you may notice today, every social media platform has its own rules. You don't make the same content for TikTok that you make for Instagram, for example, or for LinkedIn, if you like LinkedIn. But on Skyblog, there was just a potpourri in French, like a melting pot of just different opinions, different way of expressing themselves, different way of just styling, and that was a blank page and really an experiment for a whole generation. And as social media goes by and evolve with Facebook, with Meta platform, the rules became more and more structured and rigid. And so that's why I smiled through Pierre's speech. That's because, yeah, we have the same moral panic today with some social media, like TikTok, for example, that we had with Skyblogs back in beginning of 2000s. And I think social media practice are really interesting to look by, just to see how teenagers and young adults can create memories and way of shaping society through social media. And the way we express on social media today are not so much different that we did on Skyblog back in 2008, like the selfies. It was just with like a real numerical photographic from right above with a lot of black coal under the eye and a duck face. But we're doing selfies today. And the way we interact with each other, the way we comment, the way we can go through rabbit holes from one page to another. I think that was a space of experimentation. that we cannot have today with all the problematics that are linked to social media. So yeah, I think it was, in my memory, it was a sort of golden age, but that's just maybe nostalgia. But I think that was, a way of creating new things and express yourself.
Thank you. I think we may be running a little out of time, but I just wanted to turn again to Jérôme, maybe to, if you want to, you need the microphone definitely.
Just a few words on the support to researchers that we can provide at INA. So you talked about full text. It's not a tool that allows everything, but it's a good tool to discover huge collections. So we have a full text index to search all the Skyblog's pages, but also our web archive. And INA created a lab last year that provides support and processing tools to researchers and can assist them. And for the next call for projects this next year, we will promote a project on the Skyblog corpora. And on the technical side, because I have a technical team, we think about project to maybe extract structured data from the blog to ease the analysis of research work on this corpora.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure we have time for questions in the room. Maybe one or two if there are burning questions. I think there is a person in front row. Oh, it's Guillaume.
Hi, many thanks for this excellent roundtable. I'm a researcher, I'm a political scientist. I'm also a research associate here at BNF. And I was, it's a general question, maybe some of you can answer because you've seen the content. How much political content is there? If you started in 2002, that's not long after 9/11. And so I would be very interested in knowing the people that debated what happened which is the mother of conspiracy theories we see today, discourses around what would have had happened in 9/11. And so do you think it's doable to find traces of those discourses on 9/11 back in the days on Skyblogs and to try and track what those people have been saying, for example, on the COVID pandemic? Do you think that's doable? Do you think that using full text indexes, we can find that? To what extent also did you think about the ability to do research and to re-identify authors with the discourses they can have and that we can find on the live web today?
I can say a word about I'm not a specialist of political science, but I've been looking at I started to look at the content. It's a bit overwhelming. There is everything. So any topic that had some interest among a young public across those years is present in the Skyblog. So you have Skyblog about everything. But if you look at the electoral content, since BNF has a very rich web archive on this topic, you can find some anchors, not many, but there are some blogs. And in 2007 and 2012 in particular, there were blogs, Skyblogs, for some political personalities. So Sarkozy or Ségolène Royal, I don't know, and they can be used as fractal starting point, just as Pierre described earlier. So you can start from a blog, and I've done a very quick experiment with Hive, which you know about, trying to start with the 16 blogs that were selected by librarians in the elections harvest. So 16 blogs, and I made a first round to discover which blogs they were linked to, and I got 900. And then I did a third round, and I don't know, more than 60,000. So it gives you an impression of how fast you can divide in the corpus. And I'm pretty sure that using the full text search, we can find starting points on any topic and then use the kind of network analysis to go from one blog to the other and try to discover more content. That's just one way to do it. I don't know if you want to comment. We have to close. We are already very late. So many thanks. And join me in thanking your speakers, please.